Dr. Y.V. Subbarao presents Part 6 of Vedic Astrology Unravels Origin of Life, Evolution and Liberation. Hinduism and Science. Hinduism, science and religion are always in perfect harmony. Ancient Hindus excelled in all subjects that afforded the largest field of abstraction and contemplation. Many stalwarts of science have acknowledged the greatness of Hinduism. The vastest knowledge of today cannot transcend the buddhi of the rishis in ancient India, and science in its most advanced stage now is closer to Vedanta than ever before, said by Alfred North Whitehead, British mathematician and philosopher. India is the mother of religion. In her are combined science and religion in perfect harmony, and that is the Hindu religion, and it is India that shall be again the spiritual mother of the world, said by Annie Besant. Called Sagan, on the basis of them all, the Hindu religion is the only one of the world's greatest faiths, dedicated to the idea that the cosmos itself undergoes an immense, indeed an infinite number of deaths and rebirths. Carl Sagan again says, the nitrogen in our DNA, the calcium in our teeth, the iron in our blood, the carbon in our apple pies were made in the interiors of collapsing stars. We are made of star stuff, Carl Sagan. Hinduism and science. Manusmriti says Earth is more than 4 billion human years. Science says it is 4.54 billion human years approximately. Long before it became a scientific aspiration to estimate the age of the Earth, many elaborate systems of the world chronology had been devised by the sages of antiquity. The most remarkable of these occult time scales is that of the ancient Hindus, whose astonishing concept of the Earth's duration has been traced back to Manusmriti, a sacred book. Arthur Holmes, of geologist. Carl Sagan on God of the Gaps. A God of the Gaps is assigned responsibility for what we do not yet understand. Moreover, a God of the Gaps explanation, when it is not an argument from ignorance, is not necessarily unsound. The gap in question might be a lacuna naturae causa, a gap on account of nature, rather than a lacuna ignorantia, a gap on account of ignorance. That is, a genuine gap in the proximate self-explanatory abilities of the natural world, a gap that can therefore never be filled in with an adequate non-teleological explanation. Basic premise of Hinduism. Hinduism believes in the supreme energy, which is beginningless and endless, in accordance with the first law of thermodynamics, which states that energy cannot be created or destroyed. It is clear that Hinduism in its purest form is theistic. Theism is its basic premise. Hinduism believes in the supreme energy, which is beginningless and endless. It is clear that Hinduism in its purest form is theistic. Theism is its basic premise. Hinduism is acknowledged by many great stalwarts of science as the greatest of all religions and as roots of modern science evident from their original assertions. Hinduism believes in the karma theory. The law of karma is essentially cause and effect. Karma is the consequence of action. The law of karma states that wherein intent and actions of an individual cause influence the future of that individual effect, according to Newton's third law, which states that for every action there is an equal and opposite reaction. Carl Sagan, cosmologist and a famous astrophysicist, states that the existence of the universe is cyclical, with the number of deaths and rebirths, and its time scales are longer than the age of the Earth or the Sun, about half the time since Big Bang. Carl Sagan and Fritz of Kepler, 1975, noted similarities between the universe age and the Hindu concept of one-day duration of Brahma, the creator. The famous scientist J.B.S. Haldane, who gave up his British citizenship and became an Indian and settled in Calcutta, observed that the Dashavataras, or known as the 10 incarnations of the Lord Vishnu, are a true sequential depiction of the great unfolding of evolution long before Darwin's theory of evolution. Stuart J. Inglis, in his book Planets, Stars and Galaxies, wrote that Hindus developed a calendar that includes periods of time up to 4.32 billion years. This, interestingly enough, is about the age of the Earth. This is corroborated by the branch of nuclear physics from the half-life of the uranium 238 and lead 206 process involving a time of 4.5 billion years. Professor Arthur Holmes, geologist, professor at the University of Durham, wrote in his great book, The Age of Earth, applauded the ancient Hindus about the precision of the calculation of the age of the Earth and the entire universe in their sacred book, Manusmriti. A source is Hinduism and Scientific Quest by T.R.R. Iyengar. Alan Watts, a professor, graduate school dean and research fellow of Harvard University, wrote in his several books that the theory of relativity is well known to the Hindus practicing new states of consciousness and who know the time in billions and kalpas. Source is Spiritual Practices of India by Frederick Spielberg, introduction by Alan Watts. It is indeed a remarkable circumstance that when the Western civilization discovers relativity, it applies to the manufacture of atom bombs, whereas Oriental civilization applies it to the development of new states of consciousness. An equation means nothing to me unless it expresses a concept of God, declared Ramanujan, the mathematics genius and the man who knew infinity. There is order and reason in the universe and in existence. It is not simply natural selection. Definition of God. The basic premise of Hinduism is theism, which believes in supreme energy governed by the first law of thermodynamics. It also believes in cause and effect, governed by Newton's third law of motion. Thus, God in Hinduism is defined in all of science without any ambiguity. All religions define God as omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient, meaning universe is full of vibration, full of supreme energy, and all knowable, and reduces to the equation E is equal to mc square. God and humans. Humans are known as Jivatmas with infinitesimal energy known as Anu. God is known as Paramatma with infinite energy called Vibhu. Thus we come to the end of part 6. Thank you.